We will see the installation of .NET Core SDK on Ubuntu. After installation of .NET Core, we will install some tool for development. The tool which I prefer is Visual Studio Code. So after the installation of Visual Studio Code, we'll create one console application and one web application using template. In order to installation, go to the official website of .NET Core, that is microsoft.com net core, and select the appropriate version. I select the Linux, and under the Linux I'm going to use Ubuntu, so I'll select the Ubuntu, and now I have the option of Ubuntu and the installation step for installing the .NET Core SDK on my Ubuntu. So I need to follow these steps to install my .NET Core on Ubuntu. So like the version I have right now is 16.04 LTS. So for 16.04 LTS, the installation steps is mentioned in this section. So I need to go through with this particular command from my terminal, and once these commands are executed, then I need to run this particular command to get installation done of .NET Core SDK on my Ubuntu. So once this command is executed on your machine, open the terminal. As I already installed the .NET Core on my Ubuntu, I didn't run this command. Terminal type .NET, and if you are able to see this kind of information, it means .NET Core is successfully installed on your Ubuntu. Now clear the console and run one more command. It will give you the exact information what version you installed of .NET Core, what is your system information, and all other thing. So till this point we are done with the installation of .NET Core. So once the .NET Core is installed on your machine on Ubuntu, on the same website download the Visual Studio Code, and once you download the Visual Studio Code, double click on this particular file, your software center will open, and it will prompt to install this particular version on your machine. As I already installed on my machine, so it's show me the detail about the version, source and size. Now by this way the .NET code is also installed on your machine. Once the Visual Studio Code is installed on your machine, it's time to create the console application as we mentioned in this step. So for this, open the terminal, what we have already opened, clear it all, and create one directory. Here in this directory, run the command .NET new. It will create a new console application for .NET Core. To see this console application, now open the Visual Studio Code, and on the Visual Studio Code, open the folder Visual Studio Code. Okay, and here you can see this particular program is installed on your Visual Studio Code. Now once you open the Visual Studio Code, the Visual Studio Code will prompt you to install some dependencies. So for these particular dependencies, we need to make it sure to install it properly. So suppose if the C# is not visualizing from your .NET code, it means you need to install these extension. To install the extension on Visual Studio Code, go to the extensions here, and on the extension search for this particular Visual Studio Code C# extension. Simply put C# here and the extension will come. So I already installed the extension on my Visual Studio Code. That's why it is showing like this. Otherwise, it will show like this and then the install. So I have a default program which is created from the command .NET new. So this is my default program and I need to check this program. So for test this program, again go to the terminal and write .NET run. Once the compilation is successful, the output is showing on the console screen. Now I want to modify this particular file and let's say hello my output, and just I save it, and after save on terminal I again the command .NET run. The same code will compile again, and this time you can see the output is changed, hello my first output. So this is from the console or terminal. Suppose if I want to debug this program from here itself with the debugger point, so on the left hand side this red dot is coming. This is a debugger as we have in Visual Studio also. So I'll put one debugger point here and then I'll go to debug symbol and click on it. So once I click on it, my application will compile with this start debugging symbol. So I'll start my debugging, and after compilation all symbols are loaded and my debug symbol is hit and my debugger is working fine. So as my debugger is here, the locals is showing the variables what I used here, like I use args variable, so it is showing here, and the same bypass or continue option or restart option or stop debugging option will come here. So I will go one by one step. So I'll step over it. It will go into the step over, and then once I step over this, my output will come here. Then I will continue. So once I will continue, the program execution is done. Now it's time to look the Visual Studio web application. To create the Visual Studio web application, let's create one more directory. Web. Go inside it and run the command .NET new web. But this command will create a web application without a template, but I want the application with the template, so I'll put T and then web. It's created one web application for me with the template. Now load the same application on Visual Studio Code. To load the application, open the folder Visual Studio Code, and once you open this folder on Visual Studio Code Explorer, you will see the template. It's already there, and under this template uh, again it is asking for some dependencies. So yes, I need to install this dependency. Once my dependency is installed, here I can see under the web root I have a CSS, images, JavaScript file. I have controller, account, home and manage, and I also have the view as we have on Visual Studio 2015. Now we want To see the web application running, to do this, so to run this web application, go to the terminal, type the command .NET run. Here, this particular command will show us the .NET application is start up and running and the server is started for this particular address. So we need to copy this address and paste it under the web browser. So once we paste this particular URL on the web browser, the web application what we created using template is up and running on the Ubuntu using .NET Core and Visual Studio Code.